Welcome back, everyone, to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing out there? Well. All the cards are falling at once. Now, it's kind of interesting. It's just like what we've been sort of talking about as the deep state's apparatus and they get caught and it starts to fall apart. They start to trigger actions and we start to see escalations in war. And we also start to see havoc, chaos. And I mean, this is what we've been seeing, obviously, right? So today what we've got is I saw it on the internet, was the Congress warning the populace of a mass casualty event, which we've been talking about for a long time, right? So they're starting to freak out. The war rhetoric is amping up around Israel and now with Hezbollah, right? And we saw the pager incident now, and from that there was a massive airstrike, which is not good. In line with all of that stuff, we've got the P. Diddy being charged and all this stuff coming out, all of these celebrities deleting their Twitter, okay? And the connections that run to this guy go all the way to the top, right? And there are pictures of this P. Diddy character, Sean Combs, with so many people and some very famous politicians. In line with that, we see this shooter, or this attempted assassination, the second attempted assassination, and how this guy putting out a bounty for Trump, and now his son being charged with illicit images of a very nasty nature, which is what the deep state, what the feds, what the intelligence community does, is they plant information on people. So yeah, that's a whole stream of events. I mean, this is always ongoing, right? And leading right up to the US election, to the presidential election. And so we've got 40 days or so, right? Going right into it. And it's so obvious how there is this concentrated effort to go after the people, to go after those that stand up for freedom, those that stand up for truth, okay? And not only that, the infrastructure of the globalist deep state, of these open foundation Soros characters, these BlackRock entities, these blackmail, initiation, trafficking rings, right? And how the whole elitist cabal, the whole power structure is centered around this kind of system, okay? And all of these people, this is how they get into positions, okay? And so, yes, we are at war. We are at war. The war is against the people on the earth, on planet Earth, and it isn't isolated into one country in particular, right? And I mean, people are pushing back in every sector. They're really attempting to, but yet these guys, to a certain extent, have kind of initiated some of their agenda, I guess it is, right? Oh man, very daunting, extremely daunting. Same in Europe, right? The sort of the electioneering, this sort of what the remnant of a democratic process is sort of being played out, and on some levels it's looking good, and on some levels it's not, right? The UK is a mess, is in trouble, and people are sort of up in arms in all of the countries in the Western nations around this open border policy that's causing a lot of turmoil. And then, you take it back to the United States and you see, like with Kamala Harris and everything that she's presenting, and it really is direct lies. And, you know, like a couple of things she talked about, especially in that debate recently, that, man, they're direct lies. Like we have evidence, video evidence of her claiming otherwise, right? And, you know, and it's so, for us on the other side of it, it's very obvious. Not so obvious for, I guess, people that haven't sort of broken out of the indoctrination, the mind virus that's so present, but I'm not sure if that matters. I think enough of us have shifted, enough of us are on the awakening path, enough of us have been awakened to this whole process, and these guys can't hide anymore, right? And so it's sort of getting down to the wire, and you've even got people all over the planet kind of saying, like, if Trump doesn't get in, we're done for, right? So yes, you better believe it, they're going to try to rig the election. Yes, you better believe it. You better believe that they're going to do anything to foil it or to despoil it, right? But yes, they're going to try to steal this election if they can. Who's behind, like, who's the deep state? Who is behind Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Well, I mean, there's so much information about how Tim Walz is basically bought by the Chinese Communist government. And a lot of them are. The Biden family is as well, right? And I mean, this is the avenue of the infiltration that we see. This is one area that we do see it, but yet is it just the CCP? No, it's this group that sit above our heads that decide on policy, and they're all sort of connected on a higher up level, and nothing can really be trusted. But yeah, there is this infiltration, and it's an insurrection in many ways, right? There is a political aim behind this. Now, a lot of it's been foiled. This is why we're seeing the chaos. This is why we're seeing things being triggered. So what else do we see here? Zelensky has been around, and he was claiming that he was going to meet with Trump, right? So yeah, let's see. Like, this is another thing. This guy coming around looking for money, looking for support from the deep state, like another continuation, a furtherment of this kind of idea of a forever war. And then you've got the situation in the Middle East, and how inch by inch, it's just this escalation just kind of continues, and has been continuing for decades. It's been going on for decades and decades, right? And those are two places that we look at because they have such an impact on the whole sort of world scene. But also these are like massive playgrounds for this globalist deep state, both the Middle East and the Ukraine, and have been for a very long time. These guys are manipulating wars and conflicts all over the planet. They're all over, right? And utilizing them, right? And in many ways, this is why people say we already are in a World War III setting, because these war situations, they're like proxy wars, okay? Now, the illusion of war has more benefit than an actual war. Now, it is actual war that's going on, but this idea of a global conflict, the forever war, even though it being a very real thing, the circumstances of it being projected onto us aren't necessarily real, and it benefits this cabal, this group that are attempting to take over completely, to have this kind of forever war. One of the big things that they've been trying to contrive for decades as well is a civil war, or some kind of disruption, a race war. And so now here we're seeing it. We're seeing the circumstances of it being laid out. It's very, very possible. Some kind of global civil situation. I mean, that's kind of what the world wars were global civil wars, in a sense, right? And so what we're aiming at is to fulfill that stream, I guess, with history or what has taken place in the 20th century without going into another massive global conflict, because it's not necessary. We don't need to go through that type of reset. Humanity does kind of reset itself, right? But we are going through a form of a reset, and it's, I mean, the current system was kind of designed to go through this. It's by design. I'm a firm believer of that. Yeah, and it's really time for people to wake up to it. And I think enough people are. I guess that's the point of it, right? But we got to keep hammering on it, I guess. We got to keep dialoguing about these things, because gee whiz, man, they're going to do everything in their power to take the power from the people. See, and this is the thing. This is why we keep preaching or keep going on about nonviolence, about the civil disobedience, but yet not looking at our fellow humans as enemies. That's a mistake. That is a huge mistake. No matter how another human may see you, especially in a more an enlightened state, or in an awakened state, ultimately we're fighting ourselves. Even when we spot out those enemies that are against us, how do we choose to deal with them really dictates the course of future events. And now history shows what happens with heavy-handedness and dealing with oppression. Okay, it causes pain, suffering, death on massive scales. It's like an Ouroboros. It's like the snake eating its tail, right? And forever going in a circle. We have an opportunity to end that. We really do, as a species on the planet. In that, we make that step. Once we overcome that need to seek that in our fellow humans, i.e. cease warring against each other over silly causes, like what we've been doing, then we take that step, and that's what we work towards, right? So super important. That's why the readings, this is why the readings are really good. I mean, part of the spiritual context of tarot cards, astrology, numerology, the Western mystery school is this kind of concept of this moving into a new age. Now, you better believe it that the other side of it understands this very well. In fact, part of their whole plan is to kind of knock us off of the natural cycle, or to keep us unaware of how the natural cycle operates, and put us onto an unnatural cycle, onto their own cycle. And essentially, we are on their cycle in a lot of ways. And this has been part of the whole plan, part of the whole operation, part of this whole sort of information war. And instead of us being reactive to what they're putting out on us and doing and throwing at us, putting the deep state, putting the establishment, putting the state into a state of reaction to us. That's how it should be. That's how I feel, right? I think that's what's been happening. Because, man, something happens and it's instant. And I think we were kind of talking about this last time. And so you can kind of see also with that notion why they've been developing this sort of AI, this algorithmic programming, this self-learning programming that has the appearance of artificial intelligence to manage us, to manage the information flow, to censor us, essentially. And so, like they've been saying, like for decades, like whatever they've put out into the public, they've been operating in the black projects. This is the nature of this kind of deep state. And so with this algorithmic programming and this AI, they've been using it for a very long time. Oh yeah. This is how they've been managing the social media for a while. This is how, in some ways, it can link up really easy. I mean, it's so obvious. I don't know, it's just so obvious. But it's a form of ensnarement. It's a form of trapping us in, right? But ultimately, yeah, they want to censor all of us. They don't want people talking. They don't want people dialoguing about what's going on in the world. Because in that way, their grip on power becomes insecure. And it's very simple. Onward, we got to keep going, right? So I think we've seen some things happen since the last time. I mean, we always do pick up this thing of like them trying to escalate this and getting people used to this idea of like, oh, World War III, global war, nuclear war, right? And so this is essentially what we've seen. This thing with the Sean Combs, the P. Diddy blackmail ring, trafficking, decrepit initiation process. It's like an Epstein thing, right? And they want to cover up the names that are connected to him. For sure. In some ways, what are they really covering up? What are they doing right now? Throwing that out, right? What was he about to do, right? So that's another thing, right? It's just, it's part of the fog of war, right? Them sowing confusion and chaos, with this left hand, they're throwing up the smoke, but with the right hand, you can't see what they're doing with the right hand, except we're starting to, right? So yeah, and then, what was it too? It was like this thing that the Department of Homeland Security came out with, this thing of like, there's 5 groups that are going after President Trump, right? I think we could name a bunch of like different alphabet agencies that might be involved in that. But it's just another one of these things like, holy cow, right? This is what happens in third world, banana republic, third world countries, all the countries that the United States and the deep state have been messing with. This is what they do there, right? Like, I mean, that's like Venezuela tactics and stuff, right? And man, it should be very obvious to people, and I guess it is. We'll see though, right? We'll see leading up to this election, and it just is, we're waiting for them to launch something massive. Like, it's just like, God, man, this whole thing has been going on for a long time, right? Okay, so let's see. Let's do a reading on current events, what's going on, what do we expect, what do we need to hear, what's the guidance for the moment. And then maybe what we'll do is a little like what I was doing before, the kind of the game board of the deep state and the patriot side. Very simple, and see what we were dealing with in the near future with these guys. Okay, so let's just pull first some guidance message. What do we need to see? What do we need to hear? And we'll move on. Okay, so what we've got here in the present is the King of Wands reversed. Okay, so King of Wands, it's funny, I do kind of take this as President Trump. Yet, this is also, I take this as a card of inspiration as well. It's the fire of life that kindles within us. It's our will. When it is fully activated, it becomes this creative force, this energy that is all at once very pervasive, but inspiring. It inspires growth in other people. It inspires that same kind of rising of that willful energy, okay? And so that's like, I mean, this is what we were talking about. Like, their whole game plan is to really throw people off, like throw them off here, throw them off there, get you into such a state where you cannot get out of your slump, let's say. Okay, that's a big, I mean, and we kind of know this, right? Except we understand this. People get this now, which is it's wild. Like, I guess I don't always see it directly in my world. Like maybe I miss it, right? This is what's so awesome about the readings, right? Because when I sit down and do the readings for YouTube and for you guys, right, and for us, man, there's stuff that comes out that I don't see, right? Like, I don't expect, right? And this is it always kind of throws a little bit of a curveball at me that way, where don't suspect that people aren't getting it. People are getting it. They understand it. Just like what I was saying before the reading, right? Like how this is seeming very obvious what these guys are up to. Yeah, so with Trump, what they've been trying to do, obviously, is they've been obviously trying to rattle him, but what they want him to do is isolate himself. I think this is why he refuses to go into the bunker. They want him to not be connected with people. They want him to be isolated because that is their best option at getting at him. They have so many people in place that even for his team, it's hard. I think this is what they've been doing, is trying to sort out who is sort of in line and who isn't. And they can't tell. They honestly can't tell. It's a tough gamble. So anything that's related, see, this is what he's picked up on, this is what they've picked up on, is that anything related to the infrastructure, to the establishment, can't be trusted. It's that which is going after him. And so, yeah, don't let his dialogue fool you. Like he's playing, I wouldn't say he's playing dumb about what's going on. It's not him that's going there with that rhetoric. He's letting other people, he's already said enough. Right now, what it is this game of winning hearts and minds. He has to win the hearts and minds of these people that have been brainwashed to hate him in the States. Right? That's what's going on, right? So they're aware of this. They're piggybacking operations. The patriots that are there fighting these guys, like I always think of the intelligence community. So it's this weird intelligence community war in a weird way. The only way that they can come to the surface is by the rule of law, by like a legitimate elected president like President Trump, that kind of thing, the people that are on his side. That's why you don't see, we know this. This is why these people die. This is why real whistleblowers don't last long. They get pushed under, right? But they understand this now. This is something that they really, I think, get, right? And so that he's already kind of committed himself to, until this election, 100% go. Okay, and I think that is the same for all of us, right? So yeah, it's all coming to that head, right? And like right now, we just have to kind of keep in the present moment and just kind of keep in touch with what's sort of taking place, right? Yeah, and they're trying to pass online safety, hate speech laws in the auspices of protecting the children, but they're using it as a way of censoring. And it's not to protect the children. They're covering up the fact that they're trafficking them and socially engineering them and trying to manipulate them. And that's what they're doing. It's like P. Diddy isn't the biggest trafficker because they're throwing him out to cover the tracks of the real big ones, which goes back to the top. This is what they don't want you to know. And that's what people have to understand. That's part of it, that they're going after people. I mean, Elon Musk we know about, but they're going after just about anybody, but trying to justify further censoring of people, censorship of the entire internet, right? And that's something I think that's what they want to definitely push through, trying to dig up the past of their opponents. Okay, this is a big part of it, but it's not working because every moment that they try to dig up dirt gets pulled out about them. And that's essentially what's happening, is the infrastructure of the deep state is being slowly sort of picked apart. But this is what happened. I think this is what happened in the 70s, is that they go into hiding. They diffuse themselves. Some of them have switched sides, right? And this, we enter into an even more dangerous time period if these guys aren't completely sorted out. That's is really what we're looking at, okay? Yeah, it's super daunting, you know, but we got to keep going and not give in and take part as best as we can, as best as we can. Okay, so let's see, let's do a little thing like Team Trump, the Patriot side, and the deep state. Okay. Well, okay, so this is the Patriot side, this side here, Team Trump, but also Patriots at large as well. I'd like to think we're kind of in a bit of a unison. Not entirely though. It's not the case. It's not this is very simplified. This is kind of like the game board. This is kind of like the battle map that they're working off of right now. This is the deep state, okay? And so what we've got right now is they yeah, their plan has been foiled, right? This is a big thing. They're all like they're brokenhearted right now, which is kind of funny, right? Yeah, because their plan has been foiled in to a certain extent. They kind of knew this about 3 years ago. The alternate had been initiated. I think this is where we see the break in the globalist, this compact. They're not entirely broken off of each other, but they've kind of have created like blocks with each other now again. And it's very significant. Like, I mean, if you haven't read 1984, and in that book, he describes the nature of politic in the world of 1984, which is symbolic and represents what's going on in our world. Okay. And talking about the power, the world being segmented into 3 power blocks, and how at the top these 3 come together to decide. And for the populace and the people below, at one point they think they're the enemy of this power block, and then it switches and then they're the ally, and in reality they're not really at war. It is the creation of war, okay? And that's kind of what we're seeing here, is these guys have had to break off, and sort of the alternate plan. And I mean, the alternate plan was to sort of operate, like knowing that, like what we're saying is like to initiate this kind of agenda, but they would have to break off from each other in some sense, right? And operate sort of disconnected. Now, and that's kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing that, especially with these deep state captured places, they're starting to sort of initiate some of these radical plans and these agendas independently of other groups, right? Now, like the swords here, the 7 of Swords is sort of like the swords being thrown back and forth, but it's, again, of the mind, of communication. Lies. The one side is uncovering the lies of the, like the Patriot side, the Trump team is uncovering the lies of the deep state, and the deep state keep throwing out lies as ammunition. The division, right? All of the division that they keep throwing out, this is this Lover's card here, they can't help but to unify people now. It's so obvious that they're trying to divide people, and the people that refuse to sort of see through some of that phony division just are so obviously not on the level, and it's so obvious and they're using it. That's part of that thing, right? So, but it's societal collapse and an invasion is what they're really sort of operating off of. Societal division, collapse. They want people, like the deep state want the people themselves to tank everything so that they don't have to. And by letting in these people, and letting in agents, right? They're sort of, this is why, like, I don't know, like what this thing with Congress was, warning people of a mass casualty event. What the hell does that mean? Does some of the Patriots, because there are a few Congress people there that are on the Patriot side, did they figure out a plan? I don't really know. Yes, they are. It's pretty obvious, but I mean, it didn't, even when 9/11 happened, there were enough people around me that were like, this is so an inside job, okay, that it's obvious, but it eluded everybody almost. And it's the same thing. And that's what we're sort of fearing, is that they are going to pull something like this, and people are going to just kind of go along with the latest narrative, the latest thing, right? And that's what we're combating, right? And so, I mean, President Trump and everybody that is vocal has been warning people for a very long time, okay? Yeah, and you better believe that there's a lot of information agents out there. There's a lot of disinformation being pushed. I keep always talking about that, but that's kind of the source of it. I mean, wow, the legacy media, the whole mainstream media thing is just a propaganda wing of the deep state. And like in Canada, it's like that. In every bloody country, it's like that. Right? This and them going after independent media, going after littler people, is sort of like on their agenda as well. But they have to kind of be successful at taking down some of these larger guys, right? Some of these guys are like paid to be there, you know, controlled opposition for sure. For sure they are. Some people say Trump is. I don't think so. I think there's enough proof there to prove that he isn't. There's enough information out there. And that's the other thing. It's like, you know, the people that sort of know, well, you know, and you have to, I guess we have to be sort of frontline, help tell people about this stuff. I'm not sure. Show people the information, show people the connections, you know. Yeah, the Trump team is just like, it's just this thing of like, we know what our direction is, and forward momentum is needed. And just keep going and sort of step back and let the deep state sort of dismantle itself in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, like what he's been doing, what his team's been doing, is posting Kamala Harris interviews and little clips of her and stuff, you know, and like, I mean, it's so obvious, right? But like, you know, what are we going to do if she does get in? I mean, he even said, I think it was today or yesterday, was that if he doesn't get elected, this will be it, right? He won't be running again. Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll have another election in the United States. I don't know if we'll have a democratic process on the planet, to be honest with you. I do really see these tyrants sort of trying to take over, and what are we going to do? It's going to create a civil war. It's going to create this very circumstances that the power cabal wants, so that they can manipulate circumstances to their own ends. And that's what we have to prevent. That's what we have to stop. And like I was saying, we have this opportunity to sort of shift that, right? So yeah, listening to what what Trump really wants, like in the world, versus what they're sort of presenting, like abundance versus scarcity, like the Five of Wands or the Five of Pentacles versus the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups is this wish fulfillment, right? So, I mean, in some ways, a lot of what we're seeing, this is kind of what is so tough about this, is because they've had to let some of what is happening happen. And that's it's awful. But yet it is a war. Like, especially if you take the last 60 years as a war, in a sense, even the last 20 or 30 years, but in that time period, holy cow. And this is what we are going to stop. We are stopping it. So these guys are taking, the Trump team is taking the deep state's own strategy, their own agenda, and using it against them. That's kind of how I see this. And this is what we got to kind of keep in tune with, you know. And yeah, the online environment right now is just, it's a battleground. Okay. And very little really can be trusted on there. And it's daunting. It's hard because we are in an information war, and there is a war against the people. And that's something, and you know, hey, I'm not saying be paranoid and be, you know, like suspicious of this person or that person. No, you figure it out. We all have to figure this out on our own, right? But I guess this is why we tune in to certain people, right? And we have to trust that. You know, what else can we do, right? But that's what's needed right now. Yeah, that's what I see there. So, and I mean, that's just for the next couple of days, or within this week, I guess, next few days. And it's kind of, you know, a little bit of the same as the usual. I mean, yeah, like, what are they? These guys are just crazed. Okay, one more little guidance. Let's see what else. I don't really foresee anything. I mean, I see escalation. I just see this continuation of an escalation, and like, yeah, and it's so close. We're so close to this election, and, you know, a mass casualty event would not surprise me in the least. I've been expecting it. And just pray that it doesn't happen. Pray that it stops. There's already enough mass casualty events happening all over the planet, right? We don't need any more of that stuff, right? We need to stop the corruption. We need to stop the situation that keeps fostering the current situation on planet Earth with the majority of people. That's what we have to do. Okay, a little guidance, and then we'll close it off. How many times has this world card popped up, eh? Like, I've probably have described this card more than any. Well, I don't know. That's not true. Because, man, what else has come up recently? I guess the world, or the Wheel of Fortune is another card that pops up quite a bit, right? Yeah, interesting, right? The world division. The division that we feel within ourselves comes from, especially in our time period, you cannot help but to come into this world. This is, right now, it's the world of suffering. It's the world of pain. But that division comes from within us. But yet, in a way, we need to be divided in order to see unity and in order to find wholeness of being. This is the crux, the paradox of human existence. Yeah, it's interesting, right? War. World war. Information war. Even if world war starts, it's not what they say it is. Nothing is what they say it is. Actually, the world's in a way different state than what, if we rely on they, I think that's a huge thing, right? The Knight of Swords, though, is definitely like a conflictual card, right? But Swords is of the mind, of thought, of communication. Okay, so what story are we telling ourselves here? What story are you telling yourself about world events? What story, like, are you letting world events prevent you from moving in your world? That's a big part of it. No. We have to move into our world. We have to move with the world. We can't avoid these things anymore, right? Not letting your inspiration factor get dwindled. Don't let your light get dwindled by this stuff. Right now, it's not good to be around divisive people. Never is. Divisive people, or like really traumatized people right now. No. Seek unity, seek wholeness. That's what is necessary. Everything is going to be used. Everything is being used against us. And in a lot of ways, I mean, it is a spiritual thing. This is a spiritual war. Do you let the light of creation, the light of source, guide you, or are you led by darkness? Right? Is it the dark side that propels you? What is propelling these people? What propels these people? I mean, I don't want to get too, religious, I guess, but it is this thing of light and dark. And many of us have chosen the light. We are in the light. And that's what we got to remind ourselves. It's so necessary. And so we all are kind of being put through that process, that transformation. And so we do have to, we can't wait for like this, what is it, the huge awakening moment, the big bell ringing, and everybody just, okay, that's it. We're all, enlightened. And no, that's not how it works. It is in steps, and it does rely upon every individual moving in that sort of direction. And so we as individuals also have to move in that direction as well, moving into our world, like what I had said earlier, right? And like, it's finding the groups, finding our group, finding the people that we do feel a sense of wholeness, feel a sense of direction in the world that isn't throwing us off or is traumatized, right? That's, I think, is a big one right now, is just sort of being really aware of what, because a lot of this is manipulated. So we're moving in a direction where those manipulations no longer have sway, right? So that's where we have to move towards. Yeah, and the world, I mean, in so many ways, the world needs to go through everything that we are seeing right now. We just, at all costs, have to stay in that sort of, I guess, in that way, and grounded in that notion, so that we don't get thrown off, right? Because everything is really sort of directing us. Everything is being thrown at people right now to really throw us off our track, and so that we aren't moving in our world. And so stay on it. Like we were saying before, there's certain things, techniques that we all kind of have, right? But staying grounded in the knowledge that humanity is moving in a good direction, in the direction it needs to, and that we're gonna overcome whatever these tyrants throw at us. Okay? So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. So hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and I really hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.